What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday. Hope we had a wonderful week, and hopefully we are getting ready for that next week coming up. And we're now getting pretty well into May, so that means we kind of just have, good old-fashioned late spring, early summertime pattern in store. But one thing I will tell you is it's kind of a pretty difficult forecast, I'll be honest. And the models have really been all over the place the past week or two. They haven't really been doing the best job. So in this video, I'm going to try to zoom out a bit and kind of look at this more on the overall pattern that is going on and tell you how that is likely to influence wherever you live compared to just looking at one individual mesoscale model that will likely be invalid by the time we get 12 hours from now, as it has kind of felt over the past couple of days. So we're going to do that, and it doesn't mean that I'm not going to give you the forecast. I'm still going to give it to you in the best of my abilities, at least. And this video might be a little bit longer, too, as I kind of try to explain some things and kind of what's going on in the atmosphere and what we can expect with that over the next week or so. Also, I'm done with exams, so I appreciate all the well wishes everyone gave me for that. It's always nice to have that little bit of stress off your plate now, knowing that I'm kind of, I guess, really done with freshman year now, which saying out loud is kind of hard to believe, really, but nonetheless, it is true. So that is, kind of crazy and mind-blowing, but I am excited to have a kind of bit of a break this summer and be back home and, see some family and friends for a couple of months before I end up coming back to Charlotte to start sophomore year. So, a lot of work ahead, but either way, I just want to thank all of you for all the support that I've gotten really since I started this with my education and you being very understanding of whenever I have to kind of miss days to, kind of tend to that. But I guess with all that said, I won't talk your ears off too much more, and we can go ahead and get into the forecast. So we'll start here by looking at radar, and we have a couple kind of distinct areas to talk about. We'll start here kind of in the Kentucky, Tennessee, and the Carolinas, where we have this chance of kind of this MCS, as we call it, which is really just a fancy term for a line of thunderstorms continuing to move south and southeast. So we've had some pretty big storms throughout this afternoon and then much of Kentucky, and this will likely continue to slide south into Tennessee, into the Carolinas, through Virginia. Now, I do think parts of this line are going to hold up a little bit better than other parts. So likely this section over here near Bowling Green down towards Nashville is more likely to hold up than whatever's left of it kind of back over here towards the Johnson City, Roanoke area. So places like Raleigh, kind of Virginia Beach, much of the eastern North Carolina and southeastern Virginia, I don't expect nearly as much severe weather out of this, or kind of exciting weather, even if it's not severe, compared to places back further to the kind of to the west here. So much of Nashville towards Asheville, I think this area has a higher likelihood of this line of storms continuing to kind of keep up that pace of staying strong. This could even slide as far south as Charlotte and Greenville tonight, so we'll definitely watch that. Could have quite the light show in a place like Greenville or Charlotte as the sun begins to set this evening. Definitely watching out for that. Other than that, we do have some severe storms up here into Iowa, and this will likely become more widespread as we get into tonight. I expect even more of those severe storms, and we've even had some storms today in Texas, and likely we'll have some more to fire off this evening where we could also see some severe storms. Now, looking at this on satellite, again, correlates pretty well. So we have this area of storms over here, also some storms up here in Iowa, and some storms down in Texas, and everywhere in between, kind of just partly cloudy skies or sunny skies this afternoon. Now, as we look at those current hazards, not much going on right now, but this will likely change as we go over the next couple of hours. I would expect likely a tornado watch up here into Iowa, maybe some severe thunderstorm watches back down here towards Texas, maybe even expanded severe thunderstorm watches here into Tennessee. Would not surprise me at all. So right now things are quiet, but as we go into the overnight, I do expect kind of our warnings and watches map to really pick up as that sun begins to go down. So looking at severe weather threat today, again, I really think the bullseye will be up here towards Iowa and northern Missouri, where we kind of have the best ingredients for some of those strong storms. But we even have this marginal risk down here for that MCS that's continuing to move on through, as we just talked about, and even over Texas, as we also talked about. So as we move into tomorrow, I expect this area of storms to become a little bit further off to the south and east, especially right over really the Ohio River Valley from St. Louis down to Paducah, Kentucky, up towards Louisville, southern Indiana, Illinois, and even sections of northern and northeastern Arkansas also under the gun for some of those stronger storms tomorrow before getting into our Tuesday. That threat shifts over towards the Carolina coastline, as well as back over into the plains over here through kind of the Wichita area, and even as far down to the south as the kind of Texas-Oklahoma panhandle area. All right, so we're going to start with the next 18 hours on our high resolution rapid refresh model, and this is as far out as I'm going to go with this model. And just want you to know, as I show these models, none of this is set in stone. This is just kind of a general idea of what we're expecting. So as we go through tonight, again, that MCS kind of falls apart a little bit here in Virginia and eastern North Carolina, but kind of survives enough to cause some storms through the Asheville area. This is 7 o'clock here I'm showing you. And even going into 8, 9 o'clock down into Greenville, Spartanburg, and even up towards Charlotte. So we could again see quite the light show in Charlotte tonight. Would not surprise me. Although again, it also could not happen at all. It's just kind of the nature of how these things go. We really just don't quite exactly know. But one thing I do feel confident in tonight is all of these really strong damaging storms up here near Nebraska, Iowa, over into sections of Illinois, northern Missouri, as I talked about, and even of course some leftover storms down here near Nashville and even into western Kentucky tonight. So again, a lot of us going to see some of those storms tonight, although not all of us will see the severe storms. And as we move this throughout tonight, again, those storms just continue to move on through. So by the time we get kind of into the early morning hours of our Monday for that rush hour commute, I think a place like Nashville, Huntsville, maybe Dalton, Georgia, having some pretty rainy conditions early tomorrow morning. St. Louis as well, up towards Chicago, seeing some rain. But anywhere you see kind of these brighter reds and oranges is where we have kind of that chance for some of these to be thunderstorms and not just really good old-fashioned rain showers. Now, as we move this ahead into time, we'll move this into Monday afternoon here, and you'll notice, again, I think that threat during Monday afternoon will be kind of in this area here, and this is because of mainly what's going to be left over from Iowa today. As we get into tomorrow, you can see that kind of moves on through that slight risk we looked at tomorrow afternoon before once again kind of fading out a little bit until going into the overnight hours again tomorrow, having another flare-up of those storms in that slight risk area. So it could be kind of 2 rounds of storms tomorrow for you folks there in sections of southeastern Missouri, western Kentucky, northern Arkansas, and northwestern Tennessee. Could it be, one of those days that we kind of start with rain, get some sun, and then end with rain and storms again. Now, as we go into kind of Tuesday, I guess would be the next day after Monday, I expect kind of that next area of severe weather to shift back over towards the Carolinas. And this likely won't be anything off the charts here, but could definitely have some stronger storms really from Charlotte, Raleigh, Columbia eastbound, I would say, on Tuesday afternoon. So we'll definitely watch for that. Could have some strong storms move on through. And this is as far out as this model goes. But again, I just want to say none of this is set in stone. This is just kind of the general idea of what we're thinking. A lot of models show different things, but overall, it's best to kind of just follow these severe weather maps that we looked at and just know if you're in these kind of areas, this is where the experts have decided we have the highest chance of severe weather for these days. So really just kind of watch that. Now, the next map I'm going to show you is our 500 millibar height map for wind, and pretty much what this is just a fancy way of saying is kind of how we expect the jet stream to set up, or the upper atmosphere winds. So as we kind of move this ahead into time, you'll notice we have kind of this general overall motion right now of this in the atmosphere, and that is why we're getting these storms to ride through Nebraska, ride through Iowa, and then eventually kind of dive down like we're seeing today with this MCS in Kentucky, and then eventually kind of exit out of the Carolina coastline. That's kind of the overall flow we're seeing on the jet stream, as you can kind of see here with these wind barbs, just kind of following this overall pattern. Now, as we move this ahead and get into kind of your Wednesday, I do expect to get a bit of a kind of a kink in the jet stream, if you will. So I think by the time we get into Wednesday afternoon, it'll look a bit more like this, and we'll have a bit more of an overarching jet stream. So what this will do is, up into the northeast and the east coast, this is going to dry things out and cool us down a little bit as we get a bit more influence of some of this Canadian air. And then vice versa up here into the Great Plains. You're going to get the opposite effect of that. So you're going to get this warm southerly flow that is going to help to fuel more thunderstorms during the middle of this coming week, as well as very kind of muggy air. So that's kind of what I see right now. And also for the West Coast, if you're watching out west, same thing kind of that we're going to see in the east, as we're going to get this kind of just big old hump in the jet stream here going into the middle of this next week. And that should likely continue a little bit and continue to push east. So by the time we get into a little bit later into next Thursday, that hump in the jet stream moves further to the east, and we get more of that southerly flow here into the Carolinas and through the central part of the country. Before the models have been hinting at a big time kind of piece of energy late next week diving down from Canada. So we're definitely going to want to watch this. But that's pretty far out into the future, but this could cause quite a big time cool down in the Northeast going into the following weekend. I mean, lows potentially below freezing as far south as the Northeast and maybe even extreme northern mid-Atlantic. So that's something we're definitely going to want to watch for in terms of those crops going into late the following weekend. So again, this is about a week out, but we'll watch that as well. Now, what does all this mean in terms of what we're going to see on the ground? Again, this kind of is just going to depend on where you're at and comparison to where that jet stream is going to set up like we just looked at. So as we kind of move this ahead into time, again, this is going into the next couple of days. So I want you to watch as I move this ahead. You'll notice these storms kind of take this general path that we're looking at right now. They're going to follow that general line that we just looked at. You can see that low pressure up into Iowa, getting into Iowa today and into tomorrow, and then eventually diving to the south and east, bringing some of that rain eventually into sections of the Carolinas going to Tuesday afternoon, like we talked about. Now, after that, that's whenever I think we get this kind of kink in the jet stream. So this is Wednesday. Again, you see this high pressure setup and kind of dive to the south and east, and that is what is going to cause this general look in the jet stream. So you'll notice as we go into next Wednesday and Thursday, we still have plenty of this unstable air and these storms and showers in the central plains, but we're kind of, a bit drier back into the east as we get more of that northerly flow from that high pressure helping to dry us out and even cool us down a little bit before eventually that high pressure gets kicked out and that hump in the jet stream moves over much of the eastern half of the country. So, going into the first couple days of this week, Monday, Tuesday, expect pretty widespread rain for much of the central and southeastern part of the country. And then as we go into kind of Wednesday, Thursday, expect us to dry out in the east, and continuing those muggy, stormy conditions in the central plains before eventually kind of going back into this coming weekend, that kink in the jet stream gets pushed out, and we're once again dealing with more widespread rain in the east, as well as potentially big time piece of energy. Again, that the models have been hinting at. So we could get some kind of big time storm going out into next weekend. But of course, that's far enough away that we won't really worry about that right now. Now, another way to kind of show this I like to show is the lightning flash density. And again, this is just pretty much where we're likely to see thunderstorms. Again, over the next couple of days, kind of under, this southerly Gulf flow that we're seeing, we have that chance for thunderstorms before eventually we get into Wednesday and Thursday. And sorry, let me get this map back to where I want it to be. There we go. This is going into Wednesday and Thursday. And again, you notice much less of that here in the east as that high pressure works in, but still plenty of that here as we get that southerly flow kind of here into the central plains and into sections of kind of more of the eastern side of the southeast. So you folks in Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, still likely continuing with these storms through just about all of next week. And then again, as we get into later next week and into next weekend, this shifts back to the east and we get more of the showers and thunderstorms back into the east before maybe finally clearing out a bit more after that going into the long term. Of course, though, that's so far out there that it's kind of really just fantasy land a bit. So another way to look at this is the dew points. This is a great way to look at how we expect the jet stream to set up. So again, right now going into Monday, Tuesday. So to start this week, again, we still have this kind of general overall pattern here. So ever we're under that, continuing to get this warm Gulf flow before eventually going into Wednesday and Thursday, you'll notice this drier air from that high pressure kind of scoot on into the east behind the Appalachian Mountains. And then that kind of jet stream sets up more like this. So, the jet stream is really a very important thing to look at, and I think I really don't stress that enough in my videos, because a lot of times whenever I show you these precipitation maps or these dew point maps, all of that is really just dependent on how these upper level winds are going to set up. So, in these times when kind of these short range models don't do the best, it's best to just look at the jet stream, look at the overall pattern on what we're expecting, and just kind of follow that. So, and then again, as I talked about going into later next week, that jet stream continues to, then kind of stretch out a little bit more and more of this warm, humid air kind of, works further to the east again. So again, we're really just going to have to watch that jet stream before, again, models are hinting at some kind of big time cool down or storm system, helping to bring in cold air, kind of, again, going into about a week out. But, I've said it many times already, but, we'll focus on that at different times. So again, just to summarize here, a really kind of stormy, wet week to start the week, then cooling off, drying out a little bit east of the Appalachian Mountains going into your Wednesday and Thursday, although still staying stormy into the Central Plains and much of the Southeast. Before going into next weekend, I do expect that return of thunderstorms and maybe some kind of big time storm system back through much of the East. So we'll definitely go ahead and watch that. And again, if you have any questions I didn't answer, feel free to ask me in the comments and I'll try my best to answer those. And also, if you made it this far to the video, again, I just want to say thank you for making it this far, and likely if you made it this far, you're one of my regular viewers. So if that's you and you show up every day and you comment every day, it really means the world to me, and I appreciate that. But with all that said, I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday, and I will see you all tomorrow.